Hey, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Tonight, we are talking about chapter 5, which is the law of addition, and chapter 6, which is the law of solid ground. So let's just jump right in, and y'all know how this works. I will be asking questions throughout, and I will have Jules unmuting themselves to discuss. And if you want to type in the chat, then by all means, add as much value as possible in the chat. But anyhow, chapter 5, law of addition. If there was one law out of this whole entire book that I could pick to characterize Plexus Freedom Team, like this is what we as a team are known for, this one would be it. I want the leaders on our team to be people who add value to others on purpose. So what did we throw this phrase around all of the time. I know if you have been in our team for longer than like 5 minutes, you've heard us say add value. So when I first heard that phrase, it just was foreign to me. So I was like, what does that even mean? So Jules, that's our first question. What does this phrase mean? Add value.
I think just something that is helping others. I mean, just giving somebody a solution to something.
Okay. That is one way to add value.
So for me, I always think of the word add. So you're giving something to someone else, and it's going to look different person to person.
Lots of different ways to give. Yep.
I think if you add value, you enrich a situation or a conversation in some way.
Yes.
Which requires intentionality. You don't accidentally enrich something. You can't enrich something by just being a part of it. You have to be intentional to enrich something. So it's something done on purpose to leave something better than it was before you came.
Yep.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say, to leave people better than you found them in all kind of different ways, but just leave them better.
Those are all great definitions. Simply put, add value just means to contribute something meaningful to somebody's life. And there's lots of different ways to do that. It could be by helping, it could be by giving, it could be by serving, it could be by, if you're Christina, you walk in the room. I'm just kidding. She said you have to enrich on purpose, that you have to think about it and do it intentionally. But I thought you were about to add a punchline of like, except for when you just walk in the room. But you missed the punchline, Christina, but that's okay. Okay, so leaders add value by serving others. And that really is what this whole chapter is about. The bottom line in leadership is not about how far we advance ourselves. It's about how far we advance others. And that is achieved by serving others and adding value to their lives, or in the case of Plexus, add value to their business, because that's why we're all here, right? We're here because we would like to grow a business. We want to make money. And if you are a leader in Plexus, then that is your role to add value to someone's business by helping them grow their business, help them make money. So if I were to ask you right now, if you could think of leaders who've added value to your business in some way, you would all have multiple names to list. I mean, think about how many different leaders you've learned something from that you've then gone and applied, and your business grew as a result of that. So the interaction that exists between every leader and every follower is a relationship, right? And a relationship can be added to or subtracted from in a person's life. When leaders see that success cannot be achieved without people, it should change the entire mindset of a leader. Suddenly, you don't see yourself as a salesperson. You see yourself as, I'm a leader who is responsible to support my team. And as they rise and they reach their goals, I will reach mine as well. And the more people I help get what they want, the faster I get what I want, right? So leaders who add value by serving others stand to gain more in life than just economic prosperity, right? Greatness is built with people, while mediocrity is achieved by oneself. So Jules, next question. As a leader, you are either having a positive or a negative impact on the people that you lead. How can you tell which one you're having?
I think for me, it's like, do my people keep coming back to me, or do I feel like they're pulling away from me?
Mm-hmm. Good indicator.
I was going to say morale of your team. Like, do you have that energy of momentum? And also, what do the results look like for your team?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I can tell if I'm adding value if people feel the freedom to be vulnerable and share their struggles.
Yes. What else, Christina? Because you add a lot more value than just that.
I mean, I think people coming and asking for feedback is a good indicator of the fact that I tend to add value, I hope, to them. If people are seeking out your opinion, if people are waiting to see, okay, what do you think about this? Here's what I think. What do you think? Like, they're coming for confirmation of their ideas. Tone, I think a lot, you can read a lot in tone. There's a willingness to just communicate. I feel like if somebody's willing to communicate the good, the bad, the ugly, then I feel like I've earned, maybe that's more law of respect.
That's
More
actually
so.
law of solid ground. And we're gonna talk about that tonight.
Telling you, there
actually.
ain't a lot of chapters where I felt like, oh, okay, like I'm nailing this. But law of solid ground was one that I was like, okay, I feel like with the leaders that I have, I might be doing decent in this area.
We're definitely doing decent in addition to. I feel like all of our leaders are adders.
Well, I think that's because we teach from the very beginning, and we nip, you guys, we've been in lots of conversations over the years where accidentally subtracting value is just not tolerated. Like, we just teach people all the time, like, that might not have been your intention to not add value, but if it wasn't your intention to on purpose add value, then by default you were subtracting. And so here's why this isn't allowed. I mean, down to stuff like not commenting in a group chat if you can't attend an event. You know, I was so guilty of that. And Brittany would be like, Christina, if you can't make the event, just come tell me privately. When you comment in a group chat, can't make this training or can't make this whatever, what it does is it subtracts value from the group. And I remember thinking, how? Like, it ain't negative. And I would argue, God, I would argue. I don't know how you dealt with me. And she would say, but does it add any value? Does it enrich any of that? And I'm like, well, no. She's like, okay, well, if it doesn't on purpose add value, don't do it. I'd be like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I was just taught very early on in my business, and I've tried to do the same thing with my team. So I think that's why we have a team of adders. It's why you see the Orlando chats so positive, and people always trying to just add anything that they can that will encourage. So
Yeah,
anyways.
I agree. And I think that this book has a lot to do with that because we've gone through it. This is now the 6th time I've gone through this book. Probably the 5th that we've gone through it as a team. So yeah. So I think that what it boils down to is this is how you can tell if you're making a positive or a negative impact on your team. If you're making things better for the people that you lead, you're having a positive impact. If you can't answer that without hesitating, like, how do you know if you're making a positive or negative impact? If you have hesitation and you don't really know, and you can't like really give some solid examples, you might be a subtractor. And subtractors don't usually realize they are subtractors, which is exactly what Christina just said. She totally didn't think anything of just little things, but which she was never really a subtractor. Christina's not a subtractor. But on the other hand, 90% of all people who do add value, they do it intentionally. And that's because we are all naturally selfish, right? So it requires us to use forethought and to actually think about adding value to other people. So how to add value to other people. Great leaders means great service. If you are service focused, then the money often just takes care of itself, honestly. Martin Luther King Jr., he marched for civil rights. Mother Teresa cared for sick people. Jesus himself said that he came to serve and not to be served. So, Jules, next question. Do you respond differently to a leader who serves self versus a leader who serves the team? And if so, how?
Well, I mean, I would say I'm just much more quick to help out a leader that serves the team, is always adding and giving back. I'm quick to jump in and do anything they need, asked or not asked. Whereas somebody who is selfish or self-focused, we'll just say that may not be my first inclination.
I think everybody would agree with you. That's a great answer. So, question for self-reflection. Do you have a servant's attitude when it comes to leadership? Here is how you can tell. In situations where you're required to serve other people's needs, do you become impatient? Do you feel resentful? Do you believe that certain tasks are beneath your dignity or beneath your position? Because if you answer yes to any of those, then your attitude is not as good as it could be. So, next question, Jules. How can we as leaders serve our teams?
I think you serve in your strength zone, whatever you can do within your strength zone. I mean, there are different leaders that serve our team in a million different ways, whether it's, listen, thank God there are people that can serve our team with planning and organizing, because if it was up to me to plan January reset, you guys, first of all, we would have a killer name for it. It would have been a wrap and everything, but that's not my strength. It's not my strength to plan and analyze and strategize that. I could not have served you there. But I can serve you in some training. Like, I can try to think of a complicated task, simplify it, and then deliver it in a way that you can understand and implement, and your team can do the same. So you serve your team by being willing to use the gifts and talents that you have repeatedly over and over. And the kicker is, even if you don't directly benefit, I think that is when I realized I was a leader, when I was willing to give something away of myself, even if I didn't directly benefit. I mean, and that was like, it hit me like, oh, I think this is leadership. I think I might be doing it. And I had a good attitude about it. So that was, but yeah.
So I definitely agree with everything you're saying about serving the team as a whole. And all that is super duper important. What I want to hear from you guys for this question is, how do you serve your own team specifically? Like, what does it mean if you are leading your team well, if you're serving your team well, your downline, what are ways that you serve them?
I mean, I think giving them my time.
In what ways? How?
It depends. I mean, if it's just like,
what are the different ways you give them your time?
Like, some people like hanging out and doing things and shopping or whatever, but some people don't like those things, but just like meeting them for dinner instead of over the phone coaching, and just helping them through some of their issues, of their struggles.
Okay, so giving them your time and encouraging them, connecting with them so they feel cared about. Great answer.
I think listening to them so that you're able to empower them to go and find solutions to their problems.
Okay, being a good listener. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, Terry took my number one answer about time, but I think brain space too. I mean, you taught me that, taking the time to think through each of my leaders and what is it going to take to move them forward. So, there's time on two fronts. It's the visible time that they see, but it's the prayer, it's the thinking, it's the analyzing, it's digging in with them, which is why you are where you are, Brittany, because you've done that from the very beginning. Like, you put so much time into thinking and being intentional about each person. So it's back end too. So it's like for me and for my team, if my team is prospering, if I'm loving and serving them well, it's some that you see and some that you don't see, and hope probably more that you don't see than you see, if
Yeah.
I'm doing it the way I want to be doing it and should be doing it.
Yeah, that is a great answer, Michelle. Brain space. Because there are a lot of things that we could be thinking about, while we're driving or while we're cooking dinner or while we're doing laundry or whatever. It definitely requires a lot of brain space to problem solve with your people, for your people. So that's a great way to serve your team. Yes. What about doing events with them? What about doing 3-way calls with them? What about making training videos for them and empowering them, equipping them with tools that they need to grow their business and be successful? How about inspiring them, encouraging them when they're down, help them grow, help them work through problems, give them a pep talk when needed? These are all ways that you as a leader can serve your teams. So let's talk about, go ahead, Christina. You about to say
I was
something?
just gonna say, yeah, serve your team by leading by example, leading from the front always.
Yes.
Being in there and doing the work that you're wanting and expecting them to do, so that you can troubleshoot. Like, this is not working for me. Okay, great. I'm doing it too. So why is it working for me and not you? And what do we need to change? Or what is it that I know that I assumed you know, but probably there's a gap there that I need to teach. So I really try to serve my team by trying to be one of the hardest workers on the team, always in the trench, all like just willing to be as filthy and dirty as they're willing to be.
Yep. Yep. That's great coaching. So yes, totally. And he even says in the book that as your team grows, like if you're leading large numbers of people, then you figure out how to add value in group settings. So that was very helpful for me. Okay, Jules, let's talk about motives. Does a leader's motives matter, or is it simply getting the job done that's important?
Oh, 100% it matters. And you can, I mean, that goes back to your earlier question. Do you want to help a leader that's just concerned with themselves or helping others? I mean, your motive is everything.
Yeah.
You can feel it like a skunk.
Yes, because you can tell when a leader is out for themselves or if they really do have the team's best interests at heart. You totally can tell. So yes, motives matter. And do we want the job done? Yes. Do we want the job done with the right motives? Also, yes. Okay, so if adding value is contributing something meaningful to somebody's business, here are some ways to add value to your team as a leader. So we already talked about one of them, which is serve. Truly value them by helping them, serving them, show them we care. But here's another way you can add value to your team: believe in them. Oftentimes, the leader believes in them more than they believe in themselves at first. That's definitely been true for me. And I'm incredibly grateful for Fallon, who believed in me long before I believed in myself, and continued to believe in me during the times in my journey where I didn't really believe in myself at all. Another way you can add value is make ourselves more valuable. You know how you make yourself more valuable as a leader? You get results. Bottom line, you get results. Because how are you going to teach your team how to go sign up VIP customers if you are not signing up VIP customers? How are you going to teach them how to create business builders if you are not creating new business builders? If they feel stuck in their business, how are you going to, what if you feel stuck too? What results can you go and produce that will get you unstuck so that you can then tell your team, this is how I moved my business forward? So you make yourself more valuable when you are producing results that you can then hand on to somebody else on your team. Okay. Anytime you learn something or hone in on a skill, but mainly produce results, that is making yourself more valuable as a leader. So that's a huge one. Another way to add value is know and relate to what other people value. So how do you figure out what other people value? Goes back to what Chris said a minute ago. You listen. You listen to their why. And I cannot say this any more eloquently than the way he said this in this couple of sentences here. So I'm just going to read them because there's no way I can improve upon it. Inexperienced leaders are quick to lead before knowing anything about the people they intend to lead. But mature leaders listen, learn, and then lead. They listen to their people's stories. They find out about their hopes and their dreams. They become acquainted with their aspirations, and they pay attention to their emotions. From those things, they learn about their people. They discover what is valuable to them, and then they lead based upon what they have learned. When they do that, everybody wins. The organization, the leader, and the followers. Guys, that is so good. You listen to people and you connect. All right, so Jules, what steps have you taken or will you take to understand what the people on your team value?
I think it begins with connection. I mean, just asking good questions and hearing their hearts. I mean, I've heard you say this a million times. What we do is like overpaid life coaching and just getting to know them, and not just about, I mean, yes, we focus on the business, but how many times have I talked to you about my marriage, my parenting, things with my parents, just because your why always revolves around more than you. It's your family and your circumstances. And so you get acquainted by that by asking good questions and then really listening and connecting to the heart, not just the head or the hand.
Yeah.
I think studying their personalities. I mean, we've done so many personality tests. Like we've had our team take this and that, and the most recent discs that the Jules did for Jules School. Man, I've worked with some of my Jules for years, and just really, even down to the nitty gritty of that. Like, I remember calling Brittany like, "This is why she's that way," and she's like, "I knew that. You didn't know that?" And I'm like, "Oh. Well, no, because you probably thought a whole lot harder about it than I ever did." But just being willing to take the time to think deeply about their personalities. Yeah.
Yep, those are both great answers. I actually wrote down the personality one and listening well, just spending time, asking them questions, getting to know them, connect, like Michelle said. All right, another way to add value to your team is to do things that God values, which would be serving, respecting people, treat others the way you want to be treated, etc. Basically just be Christ-like. And guys, all those ways to add value, they can also be applied to your social media audience as well. And honestly, this is how you gain social media influence. You intentionally add value with your posts. Most people show up to social media with a mindset of what am I going to get out of this scroll? But adders show up to social media with an attitude of what can I give? How can I serve my audience? And think about this question. If you don't know your niche, this is a really good question to figure it out. If I was not after a paycheck, how could I serve people well on social media? That is your brand. That is a really good question to write down. So if you were not trying to earn a paycheck, how could you serve people well on social media? You can also take into consideration the 4 E's: empower, educate, entertain, encourage. If you are with every post doing one of those 4 things, then you are showing up to serve your audience. And it takes a lot of time to write good content that serves people well. There's a difference between posting, "Here I am with my beautiful family going out to dinner on a Friday night," versus, "Here are some of my favorite kid-friendly restaurants to go to on a Friday night." See how it takes some time and maybe even a little bit of research, but definitely intentionality to be a giver. So just like you can serve your team, you can also serve your social media audience. Believe in them, just like you believe in your team. Does your social media audience know that you believe that they could do this and be successful at it? Don't make this about you. Don't make all of your posts about you. Make it about them. Then he says you add value to your team by making yourself more valuable. You add value to your social media audience by making yourself more valuable. Learn something and then share what you're learning with your audience. That adds value. And then know and relate to what other people value. That applies to your social media audience as well. Do you know your audience? Take an inventory of your posts. Go figure out which of your posts get the highest engagement, because that's a pretty good indicator of what your audience wants to see more of. And side note, if your Plexus posts are getting more engagement than your personal posts, that's probably a problem. That means that you are not connected with non-Plexus people, that the people who are make up most of your audience, they're already on Plexus, which doesn't really help you. Okay. So take an inventory, know what your social media audience values and post to that, speak to that. And then obviously do things that God values on social media or off, right? But at the very least, you'll attract some great people. All right. So last couple of things regarding being a leader who adds value. Have no unresolved relational conflict with other people. That is a biblical concept straight out of Ephesians 4:26. And that does not mean that you nitpick. It does mean open and honest communication. Like if something is bothering you, you go directly to the source and you just, with emotional maturity and respect, you try to settle the issue. So Jules, I want to hear from you on this. How do you know when it is important to address an issue or just let it go?
I think when it starts affecting everybody else also, like if somebody has a bad attitude or whatever, and they're around everybody and it just, I mean, everybody kind of feeds off that. So if you start seeing that, yeah.
Yes. Got to protect your team, protect your culture. Absolutely.
I think it's important to also give grace, but if you're seeing the same trends, the same patterns, then definitely address it.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like if I feel like I want to go talk to somebody else about it, like if it hurt me enough to want to go and talk to someone else about it, that's a big indicator that it probably needs to be resolved first. And I still, like, I have 3 people that in my life that if there's something hurtful, I'll go get some counsel on how to address it. But it's always with the idea of, hey, I'm going to take action on this. Could you just help me make sure I'm taking action at the right time, in the right way, whatever. But so I don't just go and become a hothead, but always with the intention not to vent or get somebody to side with me, but to get some clear perspective on, number one, am I right to be wrong? Like to feel wrong. And if not, then, I mean, you've plenty of times when I've had my feelings hurt and I was going to go address it. You've been like, well, hold on. So you felt this way because she said that. What if she meant this? Like, and so if I'm going to seek counsel on it, then it's usually something that's going to have to be resolved. But I'm telling you, I made a decision several years ago that I would just not be somebody that would go to somebody else about things. It's just not a good look. Somebody told me one time, if somebody will come to you about them, then they'll go to you about you. Though I don't know how it went, but it made me think, oh gosh, like I don't want the person I'm talking to think that I'm not trustworthy. So if I have to seek counsel, trying to frame it in a way of growth, like, hey, how do I process this so that I can go take action on it?
Yes. Yep. Definitely an indicator that something needs to be resolved if you're feeling the need to talk to someone else about the issue.
When it consumes your thoughts.
Yep.
So when it's just consuming your mind nonstop, it's derailing you from the direction that you need to be going.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. Yep. If you don't resolve it at that point, it keeps coming up. It'll just turn into bitterness and unforgiveness, because obviously you did feel hurt over it or bothered by it if you just can't let it go.
Mhm.
Those are
And I
all
have-
great answers. Go ahead,
I
Michelle.
was just gonna say, I've learned if something upsets me, I mean, because you guys know me, I'm slightly emotional. To not act right away, but after the emotion has died down, like Kayleen said, if it's still there, if I still have that check, you know what I mean? Like it just won't go away. But so I think time is a really important element to it. Not that you want things to fester, but you also don't want to be a hothead and rush into something that may not have, warranted something like that.
For
But if
sure.
you have that check, it's important.
Yeah. So definitely don't try to address it while you're angry. That is wisdom. I agree with that.
I think,
All
can
right.
I say one more thing?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think when you're on the receiving end of someone's willingness to come and say, hey, listen, when you did blank, I felt this way, and you're able to see peaceful resolution, that's not something that I had modeled for me a lot growing up. It didn't, that's not really how conflict was handled. And so in my recent adult years in leadership, to be able to have people both above and below who have said, hey, listen, we need to have some conversation because this happened and this is how I received it. Man, to just see that that's how conflict can be handled among adults, there's something real powerful about that. And it made me feel very much more open to the idea of friendship and connection, because for years I did not know that that's how it could be. And so now I feel empowered that other people know that that's how it can be. And so if maybe I'll be the catalyst for that realization in their life, like, and just the grace that can be given there. And like I said, still forward progress, still ownership and apology and whatever's needed, but to see it handled in that way, man, it totally changed my outlook on relationship and friendship. Because that was not something prior to Plexus that I had ever seen modeled in that way. So you just never know what you might, the catalyst, your willingness to have a hard conversation after you've cooled off. And usually, like I said, with some wise counsel in there, it changed my perspective on friendship.
Yeah, mine too. I agree with all of that. It makes you feel like you don't have to fear being attacked. Like if you make a mistake, because here's the thing, we all will at some point, like hang around long enough, I will disappoint you, like in more ways than one. And that's true for every human being. It doesn't matter how much you look up to them or how wonderful they might seem. At the end of the day, they're a fallen human being and they will disappoint you at some point, right? So conflict resolution is like extremely important in leadership. And it's so important that we do it the right way with respect and with love. And I'm going to be honest, when I can tell if I want to really invest a lot of time in building with someone or not, based on the way they receive critical feedback or handle conflict. And that was one of the very first things that impressed me about you, Christina, is there was an issue in the beginning with one of your sidelines. And I saw the way she carried herself, and I saw the way you did. And that impressed me. And I was like, okay, I want to be around people like that. Like that feels safe to me. So that's a great point. Okay. And I would say that about all of our leaders, to be honest. Like I don't like to be in like an emotionally volatile situation because it just sucks so much energy. So I definitely prefer to be with people who have good conflict resolution skills. And I think that is one of the things that makes somebody a strong leader. Okay, I've got to move on. So last quote. The handshake of the host affects last quote of this chapter. We have one more chapter. Handshake of the host affects the taste of the roast. Ben Franklin. In other words, the attitude of the leader affects the culture of the entire team. So be a leader who chooses a good attitude. Did you know that you can choose a good attitude no matter what the situation is? I mean, you really can. So chat. I want you guys to just say this in the chat. Think of somebody on your team that you can add value to this week. Type their name in the chat and type out what it is you're going to do to add value to that person. And while you guys are typing, I'm going to jump right into chapter 6, law of solid ground. And I'm going to have to speed through this one because I loved chapter 5 so much. Okay. Trust is the foundation of leadership. It's the most important thing. You cannot, as a leader, repeatedly break trust with people and continue to influence them. It just does not happen. So, Jules, quickly, why is trust so important for us? What does trust do for us or others? Why is it so important?
Well, I think it opens the door and gives us permission to be vulnerable and to share honestly things that we are dealing with, our mindset, where our team is, where our points are. I mean, whatever it is, where life is, where our kids are, where our marriage is, whatever. We're not going to do that with people that we don't trust. We're just not.
Totally agree. So here's another question, Jules. After your trust has been violated, how is it regained?
Just owning up to, like, talking it out and just owning up to what you did, or however you may have offended them, or however, if you handled a situation wrong, just showing ownership in that.
Yes, that's a great segue into my next point. Your people know when you make mistakes. So the real question is whether you're going to fess up. And if you do, often you can regain somebody's trust. It might take time, but I mean, your people know. So you may as well confess and just take ownership. So trust is like change in a leader's pocket. And every time you make good leadership decisions, you earn more change. And every time you make a poor leadership decision, you pay out some of your change to your people. So, question for self-reflection. If you have plenty of change in your pockets with your people, then you can afford to make a mistake. So, do you have change in your pocket? And over time, is the change that you have increasing or decreasing? Just something to think about. So, how does a leader build trust? 3 ways: competence, doing your job well and getting results; connection, building relationships with people; and character, which is integrity. Jules, which one of those 3, competence, connection, or character, do you think is the most important, and why?
Character.
Why?
Because if I can't trust you, if I can't have you around my family, I can't have you around my team, I can't have you around my stuff, that it doesn't matter how competent you are. I have had girls, and you thank God for Brittany's wise counsel over the years. I'm like, I'm so pumped for so-and-so. And she'll spend 3 minutes with them and be like, Christina, listen, baby, everybody that they bring, they're going to lose. They ain't got no character. And I'm like, but she recruited 97 people yesterday. She's like, right, you're going to lose all 97 of them. She ain't got no character. And I'd be like, whatever. And she'd be right every time. And so then I just decided I'm going to value that too. And it works out every single time. It's why I love my leaders. I trust my leaders. I don't ever, I trust them. So character. Listen, I can teach people how to be competent. I'm confident enough in my competency. I can teach you how to be confident. I can't give you good character.
Yes. Character, hands down. And I see the Jules typing in the chat that character is the most important. I mean, people are they will forgive mistakes based on your ability. So I would say competence, not the most important. It's important, but people will forgive mistakes based on your ability. And as far as connection is concerned, I mean, they'll give you time to connect, but they're not going to forgive slips in character. Character is what makes trust possible, and trust is what makes leadership possible. So character communicates, and it communicates a lot of things. What happens? What are you going to communicate when you display that you have good character? First of all, you're going to communicate consistency, which equates to dependability for your team. You cannot get much done in life if you only work on the days when you feel good, or when you only work on the days when you feel like working, or if you only work with the people that you feel like working with. If your people don't know what to expect from you, they are not going to look to you for leadership. Do you know anybody? I'm sure you all do, and don't name any names, but do you know somebody who only does what they feel like doing? Do they get very far in life? Do you trust them? No. All right, here's a good question, Jules. What's more important, doing things right or doing the right things? And no, answer the first question, then I'll go to the next one. What's more important? I know y'all feel like this is a trick question every single time I ask it.
I think doing things right leads to perfectionism. Am I right?
Yeah.
Doing the right thing is based out of your character.
Yeah. I mean, so yes. Ding, ding, ding. Kayleen got it right. Way to go, Kayleen, because I'm pretty sure it's your first time through this book and you got it right on the first try. Ask me how many times we have struggled through this question. So yes, because doing the right things is more important, because who cares if you're doing things right if it's not even the right thing? You could be doing the wrong thing perfectly well. And what good does that do you? Okay. So what are the right things that you should be doing daily as a leader?
Learning.
Yep.
Working in your own business
Oh,
consistently.
yes, that's a good one. Yep. Lead by example.
Adding value
Adding value.
to yourself and your team and
Mhm.
social media audience.
Yes. Yep. Adding value to yourself, your team, social media audience.
And
Yep.
seeing
Connecting.
people around you.
Connecting. Yes, April. That's a good one. Somebody else say something?
I just said seeing those around you.
Yes. Noticing people. Any other right things you should be doing daily as a leader? Think 4 pillars.
Doing your own work.
Doing your
IPA.
Helping your team win. I mean, helping your
Yes.
team with their goals.
Yes. Yes. I mean, as a leader, that is important, because it's not about just how far you can go. It's about how far you can take others. So we do need to do our own work. Yes. And I think that answer keeps coming up just because we all think it's super fun to be a leader. And when you are in leader mode, sometimes it is easy to neglect your own personal business. So that's why that answer keeps coming up. But we definitely need to do our own work. But at the same time, we don't need to be so focused on our own goals that we're not supporting our team, that we're not focused on what their needs are, or figuring out what they need to move forward in their business, giving them the training they need, or the tools, or the coaching, or like whatever it is.
And being willing to have the hard conversations with them, like loving them enough to communicate clearly what could be holding them back in their business. And then you being willing to go the distance when they receive that.
Yes. All right. So character communicates consistency and dependability as a leader. Character also communicates potential, because think about it. I mean, weak character, it's very limiting. Who do you think has the greater potential to achieve great dreams and big, huge things and in life, and just have a positive impact on people? Somebody who is honest, disciplined, hardworking, or somebody who is deceitful, impulsive, lazy? I mean, obviously, weak character is limiting. So when you have strong character, you are communicating, I have a lot of potential. And also, side note, it's so important to instill these things in your kids, because if not, you are handicapping your kids, literally. So character not only communicates potential for you as a leader, but it communicates potential for your followers, because when your character is strong, people trust you. They trust in your ability to release their potential. Your character gives people hope for their future, and it promotes a strong belief in that person and in what you have going on and in your organization. So it communicates potential. Character also communicates respect. That's a huge one. Jules, how do leaders earn respect?
doing what they say they're going to do.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Being dependable. Keeping
That's a
committed.
good one, Terry. Yes. Leaders gain respect by getting results.
Yes.
They get results. Listen, you want people to follow you, go be worth following. I need to know that you can get where you say you're going to go. So go make some progress, any
Mhm.
kind of progress.
Yep.
Get some results.
I added this in the chat for the last question, but it applies here too. So as a leader, taking ownership in the posture that you show up with in the team chats, the team page, and the team calls.
Yes. I love that you said taking ownership. I have that on here. Admitting mistakes, that earns people respect. When you take ownership instead of blaming your circumstances even, or making excuses, that earns people's respect. People do not respect excuses. Even if it's like even if it's not an excuse, even if it's like a legit reason, people respect ownership. Okay, other ways. Make sound decisions. That earns respect. Putting what's best for your followers and your team ahead of your own personal agenda. That earns respect. All right, so how trustworthy would your followers say that you are? Jules, how can you measure your team's trust in you? Is that measurable?
I think just by their presence and involvement and communication.
Okay.
I think by their willingness to take risks, calculated risks. Like if they come to you and say, hey, I want to do something hard, what do you think? And you guys strategize and you figure some things out and you get a game plan, and then they are willing to go execute that. Someone who's willing to do something scary with your guidance communicates trust to me. If I jump out of an airplane with you, I must trust that you're going to get me to the ground. So if somebody's willing to go for silver with me or go make a first post and they're super scared and I do it with them and whatever, it shows that they're taking action that they ordinarily wouldn't take alone.
Yeah, that is a risk. A first post, they're risking what people think. Yeah, that's a great point. Risks. I like that one.
I think their measure of coachability when they're asking questions and you coach them and then they take action based on how you've coached them.
Yes, that is true. Also a great point. Yep.
I think also your turnover rate as a leader. Are you just creating silvers, or are people going to senior silver, gold, and beyond? Are people going the distance with you?
That's a good point too, April. I agree with that. Yep.
People stick with you through the hard times. That's evidence. And I think that comes from a willingness to be vulnerable with them. And they feel like they can duplicate that in return with you, with keeping in mind that the idea behind being vulnerable is to find solutions.
Yes. I love that you said that about being vulnerable with you. So I put that down too, by how open they are. You can tell how much somebody trusts you by how open they are with you. Do they tell you what's going on with them? And Emily said that earlier too. All right. Jules, how can you tell if your leaders trust you? Like your uplines. How can you tell if your uplines trust you?
They give you authority to do certain things, calls.
Yes. They give you responsibility. Absolutely. Yep. And if you regularly carry weighty responsibilities, that's a pretty good sign that your leaders think you're trustworthy. And if not, then you need to find out if they doubt either your character or your competence. All right. Most high achievers spend time developing their skills. They seek to be highly competent at their profession or whatever it is they're doing. But a lot fewer of them focus on developing their character. So Jules, what are you doing, or what will you do to develop your character?
Put me in, coach. Law of the inner circle. I pick mentors who accept, the expectation for high character is just there. And again, that's something else also not modeled normally in female friendships is high character. Typically behavior that's not becoming is tolerated. Cattiness, gossip, backstabbing, stuff like that. And you won't find that. You won't find that in a leadership circle. So what am I doing to develop my character is I'm just around high caliber people. I mean, I pick people on purpose and give them permission to keep me in check. So that's what I do.
Yeah, law of inner circle. That's good. Anything else?
I mean, read my Bible,
Yep. That's
pray,
what I wrote.
be growing spiritually, because you become what you behold.
Yes.
So first and foremost, make sure you are beholding the word of God and Jesus himself. And secondly, God, because we become what we behold, guard that eye gate. Input equals output. So if we're sitting here, what are you listening to every day? What are you watching every day? What are you allowing into your mind every day? Because input equals output.
Yep. Which is why Christina said she protects her inner circle and the influences she allows as far as people. And I totally agree with that, Michelle. And I think if you want to work on your character, there's no better leader to model your character after than God himself, right? So I would say study the person of Jesus Christ, and you can make it a daily habit to know who he is. It's all outlined right there. Okay. 3 main areas of character that you can develop: integrity, authenticity, and discipline. Now, before I read this book, I didn't know that these were different areas of character, but now we all know this. Okay, so how do you develop integrity? Jules? How can you develop that?
Do what you say.
Yes. Even when it hurts. Like even when you don't want to do it and it's painful. Tell the truth.
Yes, I was about to say, I feel like integrity is developed every time. Doing it costs you something. Like there have been times I could have gotten by, no one would have ever known. And it cost me something. It might have cost me a little respect or a little influence or whatever to have to take and say, actually, and it'll happen sometimes. It really happens a lot with Brittany. It's your fault, Brittany. But people think they see us as a package deal. And so a lot of the times at Jewel School or in prep for it, there's an idea. Brittany will say, like, we'll come to the idea that they need this and we will take it. And I mean, they will lavish on the praise. And I'm telling you, it must be Satan, but I have to fight the urge to just be like, don't tell him it was Brittany's. Don't tell him it's Brittany's. Like, I can claim this. Like, I brought this to the table. I don't care where I got it. But I mean, that's a funny joke. But when it costs you something, when having high integrity costs you a little bit of something, I think that's when it's really a true development of integrity. But my answer for how do you develop it was Michelle's answer for the last question was just read my Bible. Yeah. Man, for so long, you forget that there is a right and wrong compass. Mm-hmm. So just, yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So I think you can develop integrity all these ways that you just listed, and commit to being honest, even when it hurts. And I even wrote down, Christina, your true character is what you do when nobody's looking. When you'll never, ever get caught. That is your true character. All right. I'm gonna have to speed through the rest of this because we're almost out of time. But how do you develop authenticity? Just be yourself no matter who you are around. Don't be a chameleon. Don't be just changing your opinions or your personality or just anything about you. Be you. Be your best you, no matter who you are around. Okay. How do you develop discipline? You do the right things every day, regardless of how you feel. And then the integrity test. With integrity, the longer you lead, the better it will become. Without integrity, the longer you lead, the worse it's going to become. So do you pass the integrity test? That's a question for self-reflection. All right, and we're just going to end on this quote because I loved it. It's at the end of this chapter. You don't build trust by talking about it. You build it by achieving results, always with integrity and in a manner that shows real personal regard for the people with whom you work. That's how you build trust. All right. Thank y'all for hopping on.
Don't end yet.
Oh,
Hey.
can I say something? Go
I
ahead.
have to say something. You guys, listen, Britt, you deserve like a round of applause. Remember back in the day when we did this? What was that we used to do this for? It was some
accountability
mastermind.
calls when somebody
Yeah.
got to join.
So we did this because we didn't have time to actually clap. So everybody do this. Listen, Britt spends hours a week preparing for this, and it's a job that none of us are equipped to actually do. Because when you think about, if you know anything about 5 levels of leadership, she's achieved level 5, which is almost unheard of, especially before the age of 40. So just, man, if you guys will hone in on what she's delivering and really chewing on every week, so much of her heart and soul goes into this team. And there's so much in her life that could threaten to take that away. Her focus could be in a million different places, and she's earned the right to have that focus diverted. And yet she just hones in here. She is just choosing to take a magnifying glass to our team and say, what does this team need? Oh, it needs 12 weeks of my hard work every single week, solely delivering this content so that I can improve them. And she's giving that to you guys. And this is something that people have offered to pay thousands of dollars to her for, that she won't accept, that she's giving to you freely. And sometimes, what is that word when like you're close to something? Can't remember the word. I don't know. But when you get close to something, sometimes you forget what you actually have is real special. It's not normal to have a diamond of over 10,000 points giving their wisdom away for free to levels 12, 13, 14, 15 levels deep. And she's never cared, ever cared. So that's the law of addition personified. So I appreciate you, appreciate what you add to this team. I don't take you for granted, and I don't think that many people here do. So we appreciate you. It means a ton.
I don't even know what to say after that.
Everyone's doing this awkward thing though.
Well, I'm all teary-eyed, so I know that you have all the feelings because we're like the same.
I definitely have feelings, and I'm gonna end now so everybody don't see me cry.
Love y'all.
Thank
Bye.
y'all. Y'all are so sweet. Good night.